The tale of Pyramus, known as a youth of exceptional beauty, and Thisbe, by far the loveliest maiden in all of the East. They lived on adjoining estates in the lofty city of Babylon, ringed, as they tell, with its walls of brick by Queen Pyramus. Neighborhood made for acquaintance and planted the seeds of friendship which time matured into love. They'd have been united in marriage had not their fathers opposed it, but feelings may not be forbidden. Their hearts belonged to each other and burned with an equal passion. No one was in their confidence, nods and gestures the only means of conversing. The closer their secret, the stronger the flame. The walls that divided the two estates had a tiny hole, a cranny formed long ago at the time the partition was built. In the course of the years, this imperfection had never been noticed. But what is not sensed by love? The lovesick pair were the first to find it, and use it to channel their whispered endearments in safety. Often, when both had taken their places, Pyramus this side, Thisbe on that, and caught the sound of each other's breathing. "You spiteful wall," they would cry, "why stand in the way of poor lovers? You mustn't think we're ungrateful. We grant that we owe it to you, that our words have been able to find their way to the ears of our loved ones. If you would only allow us to lie in each other's arms, is that too much? Could you open your cranny enough for a kiss?" Exchanges like these were useless, with such an impassable barrier. Night came on, and they said goodbye, each printing a kiss, their side of the wall with lips that could never feel a response. Dawn on the following day had extinguished the stars of night, and the sun's bright rays had melted the frost and dried the fields, when the lovers came to their usual tryst. This time, after sighing their tale of woe, they made a decision. When all was quiet that night, they would try to elude their guards and steal out of doors. Then once they had escaped from their homes, they'd abandon the city as well. In case they got lost on their journey out in the open country, their rendezvous would be Ninus's tomb, where they'd hide in the shade of a certain tree, a tree which was tall and heavily laden with snow-white berries, a mulberry, close to a cooling fountain. The plan was agreed, though the day passed all too slowly. At last, the sun plunged into the waves, and night invaded the heavens. Craftily, using the darkness, Thisbe maneuvered the doors on their hinges and crept from the house unseen, with her face well covered. The same that she came to the tomb and sat down under the mulberry tree. Love made her brave when all of a sudden a lioness also arrived to slake her thirst in the nearby fountain, her foaming jaws besmeared with the blood of the cattle she newly slaughtered. The moonlight allowed Babylonian Thisbe to sight this beast some distance away, and scuttle in fear to a murky cave. In her flight, the cloak she was wearing fell to the ground behind her. When the savage creature had quenched her thirst with a long cool drink, and was padding back to the woods, she chanced on the flimsy mantle, without its owner, and mauled it inside her gory mouth. Pyramus stole out later, and came on the scene to observe the unmistakable tracks of a wild beast, there in the deep dust. At once he grew deadly pale, but when he had also discovered the blood-drenched cloak, he exclaimed, "One night shall ruin two lovers." Thisbe deserved far better to live to a ripe old age. Mine is the guilty soul, poor girl. It is I who have destroyed you, by making you find your way at night to this frightening place. Without being there to meet you, I call upon all of the lions, whose lairs are under this cliff, to tear my body apart, not my innocent loves, and devour my flesh in their merciless jaws. Yet merely to pray for death is a coward's part. Then he picked up Thisbe's mantle and carried it into the shade of the mulberry. Bitterly weeping, he kissed the garment he knew so well, and cried to it, "Now be soaked in the blood of Pyramus too." As he spoke, he plunged the sword he was wearing into his side, and at once in his death throes pulled it out of the seething wound. As he lay stretched out on the earth, his blood leapt up in a long jet, just as a spurt from a water pipe. bursting because of its faulty leadwork, gushes out through a tiny crack to create a hissing fountain of water and cuts the air with its impact. Splashed by the blood, the fruit on the mulberry tree was dyed to a red-black color. The roots were likewise sodden below, and tinged the hanging berries above with a purplish hue. Thisbe now returned to the scene, still afraid, but reluctant to fail her lover, anxiously looking this way and that, and longing to tell him what terrible danger she lately avoided. The spot she could recognize, also the shape of the tree that she saw, but the fruit's strange color was puzzling. Could she have come to the wrong place? While she wondered, she noticed some blood, then quivering limbs, pulsating upon the ground. She stepped back, paler than boxwood, shivering like the sea when a light breeze ruffles the surface. But after a little while she realized this was her lover, and hammered resounding blows of grief on her innocent shoulders. Tearing her hair and flinging her arms around Pyramus's body, weeping over his wounds and mingling her tears with his blood, she covered the death-cold face again and again with her kisses. "Pyramus, what dread chance has taken you from me?" she wailed. "Pyramus, answer, it's Thisbe, your dearest beloved, calling your dear name. Listen, please, and raise your head from the ground." Pyramus's eyes were heavy with death, but they flickered at Thisbe's name. He looked once more at his love, then closed them forever. Recognizing her cloak and his ivory scabbard lying empty, Thisbe exclaimed, "Poor Pyramus, killed by your own hand, aided by love. I also can boast a hand with the courage to brave such a deed, and my love will lend me the strength to strike. I'll follow you down to the shades and be known as the ill-starred maiden who caused and shared in your fate, though nothing but death, alas, could tear you away. Not even death shall be able to part us. You sad, unhappy fathers of Thisbe and Pyramus, hear us. We both implore you to grant this prayer, as our hearts were truly united in love, and death has at last united our bodies. Lay us to rest in a single tomb. Begrudge us not that. And you, O tree, whose branches already are casting their shadows on one poor body and soon will be overshadowing two, preserve the marks of our death. Let your fruit forever be dark, as a token of mourning, a monument marking the blood of two lovers." She spoke, then placing the tip of the sword close under her breast, she fell on the steely weapon, still warm with her Pyramus's blood. Those prayers, however, had touched the hearts of the gods and the parents. The fruit of the mulberry tree, when it ripens, is now dark red, and the ashes surviving the funeral pyres are at rest in the same urn.